about 8 on a hand. This is like the fundamental exercise that every single drummer in the world knows. See, this is like day one, play 8 strokes in the right hand, 8 strokes in the left hand, and then loop it a bunch of times, right? This is also one of the best ways you can get good at the legato stroke, the full stroke, rebound stroke, right? We're playing something and we're allowing it to rebound exactly where it was before. The most efficient way to get there, allowing as much rebound as possible. But then at the end of each bar, we're controlling it and allowing a downstroke. So getting these like little details in 8 on the hand can make it way, way better for the player experience, the audience, right? Going in and playing 8 on the hand, just kind of throwing notes in the drums is one thing, but going in and really executing it to the highest level is the second thing. So we'll talk about 8 on the hand on one drum, and then we'll move it around in a few different patterns. The first way we're going to think about it is just on drum 2, as always, right? Start on drum 2. We're going to play 7 full strokes, and we'll play 1 downstroke at the end of it, right? And then we'll move the next hand. So starting off, I got... That's a critical component of this. We got to play the downstroke, right? So you don't play the downstroke, it's kind of wandering lost, right? Don't let them get lost. I'm getting ready for the next stroke as soon as I finish that one, right, with my left hand. So I play 8 on the left hand and play 8 on the right, and then keep going, right? So usually an 8-bar 8 on the hand is a good start. So what I'm looking for here, and I am a fan of watching your hands as you practice, and then when you're in more of like a rehearsal, like larger setting, that's when you look forward and do whatever. But when you're practicing, it's great to look at your hands. Like full encouragement, go look at your hands, use a mirror, whatever you got, record yourself, because you want to see what's going on in all directions, and you want to see how your hands are moving. You want to see what's moving when, if something's moving differently in a different hand, something like that. So look at your hands when you're doing this, right? Try to see that you're moving at the same height. It's an important factor that you're doing downstroke as well at the end of each 1-bar phrase. And then think about how both hands are sounding, right? Listen to each hand. Try to make it sound as similar as possible, exact same. It'll never truly be the same. We can always try our hardest, but there's always be a little bit of difference between maybe sticks, or maybe the way you tape them, or maybe one of your arms is a little heavier than the other because you're right-handed or you're left-handed, something like that, right? A little heavier, a little stronger in one arm. Initiate from the wrist, but also allow the arm to move along, right? That's a really important component here, is the arm's got to be able to move along. If you restrict that, you get this very wrist-heavy, locked position. It's not natural, right? You're putting tension all here. So allowing the back, right, to move, allowing your elbow and forward to move is the important part. The vertical motion we're talking about right now is coming from the forearm, the wrist, the fingers, elbow forward, right? We're playing with open hand here, right? The positions of our hands, there's open and closed, right? In this mid-range of like wherever we're moving between. This is a more open-handed exercise. Keeping an open hand, initiating from the wrist, and allowing your arm to move to give you a pretty good sound, right? It's pretty reverberant. So I want to talk about this open-closed hand thing for a second. We got sticks and we have a resonant head, right? The only thing that resonates here is not just the drum head. The sticks also resonate. Now, I've got a bunch of tape on this that's making it a little less resonant. But if I was to play on the floor here for a second, right? If I was playing with a really closed hand, you hear that pitch difference? You can hear the pitch of the stick when I play with an open hand. Now, I close it, it changed the sound. So it's a good practice to actually play on a floor or like a hard surface, something you can hear the pitch of the stick on. You can hear when you're really squeezing too much or you're really closed-handed, but almost too much, right? Being closed-handed is fine when there's no pressure, contact led by pressure, like everyone talked about, right? But we want to make sure we're having an open hand most of the time, or at least a little bit open, right? So here with 8 on a hand, if I'm playing at high height, my hand is really open right there, right? There's plenty of space there. Versus on a lower height, there's maybe not as much space there, but I'm not squeezing it at any point. Still kind of hear it. There's a difference there between when I squeeze and when I don't squeeze. We want to make sure we're not squeezing at any point. We're allowing our hand to stay open, relaxed, and we get the pitch out of both the stick and the drum head. So let's talk about putting this on and around, right? So we've done 8 on a hand on our own on drum 2. It works fine, great. We're getting a good full sound out of this. You're sending plenty of sound. You can start with the rounds and we'll move, let's say we're just going super stock. Let's just go up and down the drums. So down the drums would be 1, 2, 3, 4, then back up, 3, 2, 1, and Spock. And I'll play my release on drum 1. And this is also in the packet linked down below. The biggest thing here is that when I'm playing on a drum that is not the home bass, right, I'm going to actually move back whenever my tacit hand, we talk about tacit hand for a second. The tacit hand is the hand that's not playing at one point. So I'm playing all right hand things. My left hand is my tacit hand, right? So I got to make sure my tacit hand doesn't stray away and move some, or it doesn't move up at all, or anything like that. We got to keep it exactly set where it was starting at. So when I'm playing this down the drum thing, I've got plenty of time to both play my right hand and also think about my left hand. Is it staying where I put it last time? I'm looking at my right hand. And when I'm going to these drums, this is a big one right here, is the 3 to 4. I got to go immediately back from 3 to 1, the home bass, with my right hand, as I go from 2 to 4 with my left hand, right? And that kind of efficient motion is something that'll be second nature at some point, but it might not be on the first go around of this, right? So we got to work to make sure our tacit hands both look good and aren't getting in the way with anything that we're doing. That's one around you can do. You can also do a stock 1 and 3 and 2 and 4, like an inside motion or outside motion. It's like insides. Right? Now this kind of thing is moving more towards one drum at a time placements. Before we were playing 8 per drum, right? We had 8 notes here, 8 notes there, 8 notes there, but now we're playing 1 per. So that's a lot quicker motion, which we need to talk about the way we get from drum to drum. So if I'm playing from 1, and I got to move over to 3, that's not a very efficient way to do it. Like making a big U or big, square or whatever, up and then down. And that's a ton of steps to do what needs to be much easier than that. So the easiest way to do it is we're playing one downstroke, right? Or a full stroke or whatever it is. But as I'm coming back up on the rebound, I'm moving over in this diagonal line, this check pattern, right? Up, up. And it's coming back up immediately to my set position for my next hit, right? So if I'm getting ready, I'm going to play this drum, rotate hi-hat or whatever, and I'm going to play it there. I got to get ready each time. Now, if I'm playing this consecutively over and over again, I got to do the same thing in mirrored reverse, right? From 3 to 1. I got to play down, and I got to move over immediately. Right? Over and over and over again. So it's a great exercise to do that mirrored in your hands from 1 and 2 to 3 and 4. Right? And you're kind of like getting this sense for like, and then just allowing it to happen when you play a little faster, but like making sure you're never losing sight of having this check pattern in your hand. Cool. So that's another way of doing it. You can do the same thing with outside. Right, do those. These are some of the cooler ones that I really like to do is the triangle patterns. So these are some standard arounds patterns for 8 on a hand. We'll start off with triangle 2s, and then we'll move to 1 note per drum and that kind of thing. Now we start off, and let's just do triangle 2s. So I'm moving in a triangle pattern. Play Spock with both, and then place 1 and 2 with both, and then 3 and 4 with both. If you kind of imagine it like this, these 3 points you're connecting, there's a triangle there, right? So we call it the triangle patterns because it's a triangle, right? With triangle 2s, I'm playing 2 notes per drum, and I'm playing it in the triangle. Let's start with an outside triangle, which there's different ways to classify these, outside or ABC or whatever you like to classify them as. But in this case, I'm playing my round as Spock, high, low. Spock 1, 3, or Spock 2, 4. We'll do it double stopped first, just get a sense for it. the motion, and then we'll actually set it in what the exercise would be. So the motion is just this triangle motion. Right? And I'm playing it on a loop. But if we want to put it in a context of an actual exercise that's more squared off maybe, then we'll play it twice, and then we'll play another 4 notes to finish out the 2-bar phrase, which will be right below, and then it'll also be in the description below in sheet music. So, right, and that's where I end it. So now if I get rid of the double stops and play it just right and left, it'll square it off for 2 bars for me. Right, and have it in a hand, right? You can do it one more time, both arms, and that'll give you the full 8 bars. So that's triangle 2s. The important thing here is that we're getting 2 notes per drum. We got to really make sure we're thinking, we got plenty of time between moving, that we're thinking about playing in a good zone, good strokes, and then moving. Zone, good strokes, and moving. So each of these motions, I have a lot of time to think about when I'm going to those drums, right? I have 2 notes, a quarter note beat each time, right? The first one I stay, the second one I move. Now, if we're to make that triangle 1s, or just triangle pattern, again, we're using high-low, kind of the outside triangle. This is it's half the time to move each time, but you can start off plenty slow to get the hang of it and then move faster. So really focus. Right, it's just 1 drum per, and again, we'll do it twice, and then we'll add 2 more notes, which will make 8 notes in total, 1 bar of 8th notes. Right, play that phrase 4 times, and you got 8 in the hand. Now we can do the same thing, but let's say we'll start on a different drum. If we just did that starting on 1. Right, and then left hand obviously we start on 2. You're just moving the triangle where you're starting each time, like kind of rotating this triangle around. I can also do inverted motion. So that's outside motion. Let's do inside motion. Let's do it reversed. So we're going to play it inside motion now. I can start in this block again. So triangle 2s first. Right, and then do triangle 1s. We can do it starting on a different drum. Let's say we did I like this one a lot. It puts the Spock on the and. Let's do inside motion, but we're going to do it from drum 1. That was a fun one. It's got a cooler pitch to it, I think. I think the melodic content is pretty cool. So that's usually one that I try to keep in the rotation for drum lines that I teach. Cool. We have the next set of arounds. We've kind of gotten these triangles down is the cross arounds, right? So we're going to play it across the drums, and this is a lot more complicated because now we're playing all these different positions. We only had 3 options, right? But now we're getting 4 options. There's 2 different ways to think about this. You can start on the home bass, or you can end on the home bass. So here's the home bass starting, right? And I have to snap back from 3 to 1. I like that one a lot. So you're already ready to go. And your first note is where your home bass is. Right? That's the second one. But you could also start it away from the home base, right? So if we're doing probably the most standard, like across around, would be from 3 all the way over to 4 and then back. And your last downstroke is on drum 1 or drum 2 in the left hand, right? Make sense? So that's a pretty cool way to get across all of the drums. It's a lot of motion. It's actually really, really hard. And some people just start out immediately with that, but you got to work your way towards all 4 of those drums. And now it's also incorporating a whole other concept we haven't talked about yet. It's a crossover, right? So if I'm playing, let's say we're doing, we'll start away from the home bass. We'll do like the full across stock version. My 4th note is a crossover, right? I got to cross over my left hand here. And that's a stick over stick cross, which we'll talk about this in a different video. But I'm just crossing over 1 stick, so it's not really that bad. What's important here is that the tacit hand remains low. Otherwise, if you get too high, you can hit it, something like that. Or the worst you can really do is like kind of move out of the way. moving, like if your hips start moving, it's a whole bunch of like, bad practice things that we don't really want to do. We're moving this hand over for the sake of hitting this drum. So we want to make sure that tasking hand is staying on home base of drum 2. Right? I'm getting straight over it. I'm rebounding every note, and I'm hitting them from the same, same approach. If I'm hitting this vertical stroke, and I'm rebounding at an angle off of it, getting across all these drums. Now, if we did the other way, the same crossover applies, right? So this, right? It's a pretty important crossover to know, because these 8-on-hand variations require it. So those are 2 variations of the across around you can do. That one works really well, but it is a little more motion oriented. Big thing is you're hitting these zones the same way each time that your chest is saying, still very, very horizontal to the drums. Your vertical positioning is all good. You don't want to spin too much. We're starting to get towards like more across around that are moving across the drums quicker. We're not staying in the same place, so it's easier to want to like move towards this kind of like hip shake thing that we need to avoid as much as possible. So we have on 1 drum, we have on 2 drums. We could do it on the triangle 2s around. We could do it on triangles around, or we could do across the drums. And there are still plenty more rounds for 8-on-hand. They get more and more complicated, but these are some really good standard ones that will get you through most types of motion that you'll be seeing on quads.